Welcome everybody to Pitching Passion. It's such a pleasure to have you, Sammy Pressman. Everyone lives such different lives, and it's of course such a privilege to be able to get an insight into different people's worlds, different industries. Today it's a humbling moment, and dear listeners, getting people's time, everyone's busy. Today Sammy very kindly going to be telling us about the world of film. Sam runs Pressman Films. Pressman was founded in 1969. It's made over 100 films with over 2 billion in global box office revenue adjusted for inflation. They've been behind films that will bring memories back to you and make you think about quite a few things. So American Psycho, Badlands, Wall Street, The Crow, and was founded by Sammy's father, Edward Pressman, who is quoted as being the producer of the decade. So a lot to think about. Sammy, how do films serve people?
Roger Ebert called cinema a dream machine. And when you think about going back to the earliest films, the idea of being able to replicate reality and project it on a screen such that you're seeing from a perspective or a place that maybe you've never been and will never go to. The ability to put yourself in the shoes of a character, and in the words of Neil Young, I fell in love with an actress. She was playing a role that I could understand. You know, there's something about movies that allows us to have empathy for stories and characters that we might not normally have any access to. So I think film lives in this sort of collective unconscious for the last 100+ years of its existence, and serves a very beautiful and vital role in society that I think we'd be remiss to forget.
Your father said films always matter. It's hard to fully get a sort of clear idea of what it's like to grow up with a father and film and how that impacts you. What do you feel he meant by that?
My father came of age in the 1960s when the discourse was very political. He was very inspired by the Beat generation, and he was a philosophy major after actually studying at London School of Economics. He made his first short film here in London. It was a almost proto-music video to the Beatles song Girl. And it told the story of two strangers walking towards each other in a park and living out their whole life as if they were to fall in love and get married and have a child, and then fall out of love and move away from one another, and then they walk past each other and then look back, and that's the end of the film. And I think off of a short film, he got a 3-picture deal with a studio with the director he'd partnered with, Paul Williams. And it was a time where independent film had not really been defined. Independent film was in its formation, and he was looking to the, Italian neorealists and French New Wave, Nouvelle Vague, and looking to cinema as a place to exchange ideas. Films matter because they inform the conversations we have across culture and across class and across societies. And so to him, making movies was something he loved, and both the process of making them and the impact and the conversations they cogitate.
As a producer, you have skin in the game. There's things at stake if films don't get seen, as it were. But there's something extraordinary with the concept of someone making a film and not knowing, maybe you'll disagree with this, but not necessarily knowing how it's going to be received. Do you find it funny, that relationship? There must be people who are top of their game, like yourself, who even though they've been behind amazing projects, still have these unexpected hits or things that there's so much that is uncontrollable, right?
Yeah, there's many metrics or definitions of success. I don't think all producers today go into a movie with the goal of it having the greatest reach of audience. I think there's unfortunately a lot of films that are made to take advantage of tax schemes and, to reduce a very wealthy person's tax liabilities. Or there's a component to the industry right now where I'm not sure that people are making the films with the goal of impacting culture or, having a massive commercial success. I think there's no way of knowing what will connect. I met you through your cousin Monica, who was my assistant at one time. She's doing incredible work right now. I don't know if we can talk about it, but I brought her and the whole company. We went to work on a film that Gus Van Sant directed down in Louisville, Kentucky, called Dead Man's Wire. And the film was just a joy to make, right? Gus was born in Louisville, and the whole crew was so inspired to be working with Gus, who made Good Will Hunting and Elephant and Milk, and just throughout his career has made such indelible images and stories and launched the careers of actors like Ben Affleck and River Phoenix and Matt Damon. And at a certain point, the experience of making the film is one thing, and you know that you're employing hundreds or thousands of people as a producer. On one hand, you're having this very tenuous experience of watching money. You're putting money into light. Yeah. You just watch time. Everyone is there. And on one hand, how amazing that we get to create this imaginary community. But then there's the experience of crafting all of what you captured into a film. And there's a joy to that process. And the editor, Sar Klein, who is an amazing man, used every bit of the carcass. He took the stills of the photographer on set and put them in the film. He found original documentary footage because it's based on the true life. It's a crazy story, really, about a man who took the son of his mortgage company hostage with a wire around his neck connected to a shotgun, made demands of $5 million. I'm digressing to say you make the movie before you put it together. You raise the money, you build a team. Then you make it in person and you build this brief, fleeting alliance. You try to make something meaningful. You go to post-production, you take all that, you make a film again. That's its own creative process. And then in its release and its marketing and its distribution, it's a whole nother mountain that you climb as a producer. And then where it really lives is in audiences' minds, right? Movies last in our brains for far longer than, the experience of producing the movie. Success on that film, to me, was defined by the experience of making it, the release of the film at the Venice Film Festival and Toronto Film Festival, and then its theatrical release got our investors most of their money back, almost all of it. And so the box office, not being what you wanted it to be, not finding the audience in theaters, can feel like a failure. But then it's coming on Netflix at the end of May, and how many countless million people will watch it without paying for a movie ticket? We made a really great film. We had an amazing time doing it, and everyone fell in love with Monica.
In that sense, being involved in a film, as you say, there are so many. I was thinking, your title on a film might be producer, but mountain climber could be equally appropriate. So many things to wrestle with: relationships, projects, funds, problems, opportunities. Is it weird, the concept that you make a film and everyone is going to relate to it slightly differently, right? And it's going to live in people's memory in a slightly different way. Is it weird? Do you have that sense of wanting to understand more about that and just gain more insight into how these films get perceived, received, what it gives people?
It's a good question. I think the role of the producer is to protect and nurture the dream of the director and the writer, right? If there was an ember that was the idea that it starts with and it grows into a flame, how do you keep all of the winds that will, push against that vision and keep the flame lit so that when the audience receives it, there's some spirit still in the image? I don't know that the job is to think about how it will be received so much as making sure that initial idea, that initial spark of passion lasts, and in some sort of alchemical, magical way, that's then received by an audience and made true or experienced in its own way by an audience, right? I don't know, what's a favorite film of yours that you have a relationship with, or that you can think about and it sparks a moment in your story?
True Romance is a particular favorite.
Such a great film. I saw it in Hollywood Forever. It's a movie series they do in a cemetery in Hollywood. Where everyone puts out blankets and brings wine. And
Speaking of blanket, where's our blanket? But did you get a sense of frustration in that your films will move so many people and it'll bring them so many different feelings? Do you feel like you want to meet people? Is it frustrating to you that you can't hear every story on the emotions that it triggers for people, the ideas that it gives?
Can I read you an exchange of messages with a friend of mine from high school from yesterday?
Yeah, 100%.
I was attacked by him last night.
Attacked by him?
The film was attacked by him more that. So he goes, Jesus Christ, the point of view of Dead Man's Wire. I just watched. Crazy. I write back, you enjoyed? Question mark. He goes, it's a fun watch, but the idea behind it, as I read it, makes me nervous in a time like today. I say, I'm in London right now, very fucked up times. He says, yeah, just like it does kind of say that the finance family is evil and deserves what they got, and the vigilante is morally right and took a stand for all of us. It invalidates the Pacino line, which hit me so hard, that you're no man unless you're working to provide for your family. I thought that was so good, but then it invalidates his position. And it goes on. But we had an interesting debate about where we are at culturally right now. And in a certain way, film hopefully can be a place where you have a safe space to debate and disagree. Right. We have to be able to speak about what we feel and think about. And sometimes a film, right, that's a film that takes place in the 1970s, almost 50 years ago. It's not what we are living, but we can speak to the moral parable within it and disagree. I think he's coming from a place of concern for hate of the other sparking violence. And I think there's a lot of rage, a lot of it righteous and maybe justified today. But what Gus was making was a film to inspire debate, right? In his mind, no one is a villain and no one is a hero. They're all flawed characters within the story, but all characters capable and worthy of love, and these two people very much at odds with one another. Bill Skarsgård has taken Dacre Montgomery hostage, so they're stuck in this space together. Yeah, I might not agree with what my friend and what his reading of the film was, but I loved hearing it, so I don't have a problem with someone interpreting something different than maybe the author intended.
Yeah. I've written some things down that films seem to do. They help you question things, understand parts of your life, see hope, see vision, see dreams, have dreams created, understand the other people, reflect on history, reflect on society, question narratives, spur ideas, escape, connect, reconnect, connect to others, challenge and form opinions. What are we missing?
All of the above. Yeah. No, that's, I love all the things you're saying there. That's like a poem.
It's almost impossible to truly understand how, when we watch a film like yours, you see the full product, but you don't see the hundreds of challenges in making that. You also don't see the raw bones, the script. We haven't been through that situation constantly. Seeing and being sent so many scripts, oh, hey, please, can you read this? Oh, for goodness sake. Yeah, sure, why not? Oh, this sounds great. Yeah, why not? And being able to see the opportunity in these scripts. Do you find it frustrating that and pressurizing the concept of reading a script and seeing opportunities, but it being difficult to dig out the best of that?
Yeah, my father would say every movie is a miracle, which I love as a saying, because each part of the process is so fraught with challenges. What you start with mutates and mutates. I was trying to explain the way that you make the film, you know, you formulate the blueprint and raise the money to the script is like the architecture, it's the blueprint and the plan, and then you pay a little bit to visualize and ideate, and then you have to raise a significantly higher amount of capital to then start building the building, and then you have to give it the flourish and the kind of fine, the details and the molding. That's like the editing in a way. And then you have to market it, whether it's a residential house, you have to get people to buy or rent it, or if it's commercial space, you have to get people to move in and use it. So it's like you're building across all the films like a city of dreams because it's very immaterial. It's all ideas. It's all captured in light and then screened through light and then absorbed through our eyes into our brain, and it lives in a immaterial space, but it's such a physical, tangible product, which is so fascinating to me. I think, like, how many jobs are there where you craft a cultural commodity that's built by a team, scores of people? It's quite miraculous.
It seems like a big focus for you and care is how one can foster a community behind a film. And what's so fascinating is, your father said, films are miracles. And I love the analogy and in the fact that you talk about how films consider our subconscious, but yet they're physical things. There's so much blood, sweat and tears that have been lost and shed to make these amazing films. But there is still huge detachment from viewers. When you watch a film, fine, you get so much, and everyone's got different experiences. It will bring back memories that are unique to us all, and everyone's got different childhoods. But it seems like in a world with the internet, there's so much opportunity for people to really dig deep into these characters. And you do see it sometimes in Lord of the Rings, for example. People can learn the language, and there are amazing resources. What do you feel like the future of film will do and TV in terms of being able to reconnect in a way that potentially offers a huge opportunity to make more money for these fantastic productions, but also just gets people more hyped?
Yeah, no, I think we have to, as film producers, figure out a way to entice audiences to engage deeply. You think of, I was having a great conversation yesterday. Yeah, I love being in London. People really like to have tea and sit down and talk for a while. I think that we live in a time where, like, our attention spans are definitely contracted both in the sense that they're shorter, but also, like, we've made this deal with the iPhone in our hands to constantly pay attention to something that's not here between us, but is down in our, a mirror that takes us somewhere else. And so how we choose to engage in a focused manner and to create time it's quite funny that someone will binge 12 episodes of a TV series over a weekend, but then thinking 2 hours is a hard time to unplug from your phone, and you're like incapable of just putting the phone away. But that's one of the most amazing things about theater or operas or musicals or films. You're in space with a group of people, often strangers, and you're watching the same phenomena, and it's almost happening to you. The media is, being beamed into you as an individual, and it's the same thing that everyone is watching, but everyone is experiencing it differently from the context and from wherever they arrive to sit in that chair. And I think I'm not afraid that we will not have film as a cinematic experience in the future. I think there's a validity to it as an art form that, you know, in some ways spiritual or just entertaining. But yeah, how we as producers, filmmakers create work that sparks conversation seems to be something that the industry is slightly struggling with. There's a pervasive, you know, negative narrative, especially in Hollywood, you know, because there's just less films being made in the studio systems, and you look at the rise of YouTube and you know, all the social media platforms, whether it be TikTok or these new formats like everyone's talking about verticals, which are just long form vertical programming that is short episodes. And all of this challenges this belief that film is, you know, in the pantheon as an art form, but I don't think that it's one or the other. I think that they both are going to continue to coexist, and this new media that is not movies but is motion pictures is pervasive. It's everywhere. So I think how filmmakers galvanize community and create value for the people giving their time, right? Creating memes, creating their own merch, buying merch, and choosing to wear a character or a film that they identify with. That is the most valuable thing for us as filmmakers and film producers, right? The time that fandom gives and the meaning that fandom gives to the work of the artist. So I think there are lots of ways that we should look to do that in the near future and beyond, to make it more profitable and to make it more valuable for everyone in the value chain, from the investors down to the fans. And we're working on a few different systems that we think could augment the way we value film by giving a tangible quality to the engagement of fandom, right? It's more than just a movie ticket. When you love a movie, you engage with it in so many different ways. And right now we have this like amnesia that A24, which is the coolest company out there right now, they're just like making movies that spark conversation. But the movie's there, 2 months, it's all anybody talks about. And then it's like we move on from it. And I don't know what we can do exactly to extend that life and extend that conversation.
So interesting. We need to dig into the characters you love. Maybe characters you've read about in the script that haven't ended up being on the screen, or indeed maybe some of the big characters we know. But a character I'm a huge fan of, everyone's probably got their sort of niche things that they're obsessed by. But Dwight Schrute in the US Office, I don't know, he just hits me in a way that can't seem to be hit. It seems like there's so much opportunity.
You know those little moments that lift your day? A smile, the sun coming out, or a piece of chocolate. Audrey's Chocolates have been handcrafting chocolate for over 70 years. Chocolate to die for. It comes in beautiful boxes that make for the perfect gift. Or bars of chocolate that feed daily joy. Discover your moment of joy by visiting audreyschocolates.co.uk and treat yourself to 10% off using the code TheCollective10.
Opportunity for the film world to embrace that relationship, and it does feel like this detachment, right? You buy a cinema ticket, the producers don't know who you are. Is there no information share? Why is there no like incentive for you to share your email? And by the way, we're going to do some drops for, you can have the chance of winning being able to buy 1 of 10 items that are replica of the suit from this character, etc., etc. Or even there must be forms, things that are exciting about where the future can go in terms of building that relationship with people. So chatbots, we could have chatbots that really delve into linking you to a character. Do you feel any of that's relevant or true?
Yeah, definitely. I think, the idea of fan credits, a space where you being an early believer in a project, I'm a big believer that blockchain has incredible potential to cohere and coalesce community, and film as an engine that creates community. A lot of crypto has been maligned as the land of schemers and con artists and rug pullers, which is unfortunate because what it's trying to do is create another economic system where we can value a cultural or technological object. And so if being a part of a membership or a reward system entitles you to exactly what you're throwing out, like 1 of 10 of Dwight's pencils, or Patrick Bateman's Oliver Peoples. Thank you, Oliver Peoples. And there's a value to that. If having that thing entitles you to experiences, whether that's walking the red carpet or even visiting a set, or, having a unique engagement with the actors that you love. Perhaps you were an early believer and someone else jumps on the train later and wants to have access that you have, and that might be worth money. And then you selling your early fan credit could earn you money, right? Your taste could earn you money if there was an actual demand to be a part of IP, but it's very challenging.
But also challenging as well from that budget perspective. But this is where AI could be quite useful in that Dead Man's Wife, it's such an incredible film in that you really feel like you are in that time of when it's being made. And there'll be people who watch that film that want to know the gossip on the backstory, the character, that they had to switch the tie for this reason. All these like hundreds of stories that are like quite difficult to manage probably and package and give to people. But do you think that there is a world where people can pay to have a bit of insight into the deep goss and in a way that's manageable for the producers to create these ecosystems that build that relationship for the people that jump on and get the excitement once they've watched the film rather than the early people who knew about the film, etc.?
There are people trying to figure that out for sure, how to allow access and engagement, right? That's what YouTubers and TikTokers, are doing such a great job of, is they're directly in conversation with their community. There's a speed to their cycle of production that is very different from film. We might spend a year and a half, 2 years from when it starts to when it actually is made public. So is there a way of bringing the audience into that, like you're talking about? I shot the behind the scenes movies on 2 films, Werner Herzog's Bad Lieutenant, and then Matt Brown's The Man Who Knew Infinity, which we shot here in London and Oxford and Cambridge. It was an amazing experience being on that set. And so I've always, from being a little kid on the set of movies to in my 20s shooting behind the scenes on those films, felt like first, film sets can be incredibly boring. Right, you're spending a lot of time to create a facsimile of reality, right? A lot of effort goes into making something feel natural. Monica, your darling cousin, brought a Super 8 camera to set in Louisville and was just like shooting random things, popping off behind the scenes moments. But there was one part of what she shot that actually ended up in the movie where there was an interview on screen going on of a journalist within the movie, and she shot it. And in a way, the quality of the Super 8 film felt like it was timeless and from the 1970s. And so that little shot has a whole story and a whole kind of from that one clip that lasts a second and a half in the movie, there's 3 hours of Monica's footage, which is the insights of a young person on set making friends and gaining a family over a 2-month period of time in a city she'd never been to. And so that's a story. And John Robinson, who was the star of Gus's movie Elephant, which is a really terrifying and beautiful film. He brought his own camera and he shot, behind the scenes moments and interviews with Gus, and he played a small role in the film, but he played a massive role as Gus's friend, and all of our sort of He's an amazing guy and shot 10 hours of footage and has edited that into 3-hour supercut. And so there's all of these things that a film creates that somehow are not in the movie itself. And it feels like there would be a great opportunity to share that with audiences and give them more access in a larger world to engage with than just the 2 hours. Or so.
Speaking of people wanting more, and forgive the ignorance as someone who hasn't produced films and been too much part of that world, but there must be, as a producer, a sense of you wanting to get answers to your own questions in life and also get messages pushed out more that you believe that are really important. We're in a moment right now, looking ahead, are there messages or things you want to really set light into the world from this moment?
It's a good question. Love.
What's that?
Yeah, I'd love for the films to help me understand. Now, it's interesting. A friend of mine just sent me a script set in New York City, and it's a Jewish and a Muslim, two friends who grew up together, and we see their story at 3 different times in their life. And what it wants to do is give a space for people to talk about a topic that people are really struggling to find common ground and a language to not offend or hurt the other side. It seems like there's very little room for that. I wish I loved the script. I read the script and was like, it doesn't fully work. But from the pitch and from the idea of it, I was like, oh, I want to make that film. We're making a film based on a book by Edward Abbey called The Monkey Wrench Gang, which is from the 1970s and is about sort of radical environmentalists. But it's not polemical, it's fun, it's entertaining, and it makes you think about and love the wilderness and the great outdoors, which is something that shouldn't be political. We should all just appreciate, yes, the earth we live in, we share, and is something to be protected. So again, with that film, I hope we can spark conversation and the ability for people to find common ground together, as opposed to feeling so opposition, so kind of divorced from thy neighbor.
Yeah, I guess in many ways, films can fill so many information gaps about the world, things that we don't have that are possible to get, or things maybe it reminds us of things that we do have, or complexities around navigating unique situations where you've got arguments with people. Speaking of people, one can't help but think about how much of your world is around managing people, meeting people, working out what people are like, so many stakeholders, and of course so many beautiful moments of sheer love for people who you meet. You see these great traits, and then so many challenging situations as well for various reasons with all these moving parts. What do you feel is the biggest privilege doing what you're doing in terms of people? But we can equally move on to the other point, which is it must be quite difficult to manage your energy and your time, because when you're in LA, a lot of people want your time, attention, they want things from you. How do you protect yourself from that and make sure, hey, this guy's important too, you've got to protect him?
I think there's two, so yeah, both are really interesting questions. I have a beautiful partner, Bianca, who, we work together, and we're married in November, and not always focusing on work is finding time to just be us and away from my phone is something that I strive to do. But having people that are true, oh gosh, I hope we didn't.
No, we're good.
Yeah, I think having people that you genuinely enjoy as friends, as your collaborators, is a real privilege. We're a small kind of family company, and that philosophy, emotional connectivity, is something that we have with our collaborators as well. By doing that, it makes the onus of interpersonal relationships feel like a pleasure, but by nature there are always problems. So finding ways to be balanced and deal with the problems and realize that most of the time when there is dissonance, it's not for lack of trying, right? We just all have our own flaws, and we all have things go in ways that we didn't want them to go. And so how do we respond to that? How do we find a way to respect that the given is the problem, and the problem can actually open up a new solution, right? That it's not just about things going the way that one wants them to go. It's understanding that it's like a river flowing around a rock. You just keep moving.
Yeah.
Because you can't go. Coleman Domingo in Dead Man's Wire has a line where he says, like, the river is always moving. You can never go back to the same point in the river, right? Lamenting that you had to go around the rock doesn't change the fact that you passed the rock, right? So you may have wanted to go over it and you went to the side of it, but that's what happened. So you may as well embrace that now you're downriver past the rock. And I don't know. I think we just have to work together.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So many lovely messages around that. How clearly working with people you like really helps you. And
What was the first question?
the first question was, I guess, the privilege of being able to work with all these different people.
Yeah, no, I think I guess they're connected.
Yeah.
The beauty is trying to merge those two things of that every film you're learning from, every interaction you're learning from. Akin to what you get to do with everyone you interview. Everyone has their own reality, and you get to dive into that for however long you sit with them. And in a movie, it's the same. You're like choosing something that you're going to invest yourself in and learn about. That Man Who Knew Infinity was a film about a mathematician, and, the early 1900s. I had no idea about any of who G.H. Hardy was, or, learning about Ramanujan. And that's so fucking cool that with every movie you get to learn, and then there are all the people in that, and you get to learn from them and learn who they are. So that's kind of the great privilege of being a producer.
And if we look at LA, LA is an extraordinary place for different reasons, right? The dreams that get made, the creativity, and the enthusiasm. People are very friendly. It's a very seductive environment. It's unbelievable weather. You've got the palm trees. It's just truly extraordinary. You come across all sorts of people who are fighting ruthlessly hard to make their dreams come true, and it's just taking time, and things have not, the plants have been yet to emerge, to grow. And then you also know people who are incredibly well known, and it must be interesting to reflect on how everyone's got their challenges, right? We all have different things, and it's not always immediately obvious what we all need to be happy, right? What are your reflections on meeting so many different people? Because it's what one starts to hear is that once you make it, it's not like the answers are all there.
Sure.
So do you have something there that you feel is?
I think you have to have that continued inquisitive engagement with it, right? If you're purely results oriented, that whole idea that there's the putting together of the blueprint, and then there's the building, and then there's the details, and then there's the filling the building. If each of those parts of the process can be fulfilling in themselves, even if you don't, it's incredibly frustrating trying to move from phase one, where you're getting a script written and building an imaginary world, to phase two, where you have the money to make that thing become real. The vast majority of ideas never progress to be made. So many films are unfinished. They're just still imaginary scripts that never were lensed. And I think people become jilted by and discouraged by those sort of unrealized dreams. And what I take from my father's lessons are just to continue to be persistent. The only times he would get mad at me was when I was doubting myself or putting myself down as if it was an individual failure when something didn't go as I wanted. And I think all of us are going through our own dramas and have our own tragedies that we have to overcome, and just remembering that we're all going through life and we're all facing these things. And most people hold that in and might not share it. I think Los Angeles is a city where people, both present the narrative that they want people to perceive them as, and also a city that really quickly shares its problems. But yeah, it's a city of people who want to aspire to something, and something often creative, whether that's in the music scene or the arts or film. So I don't know. It's hard to know how to stay positive other than to recognize that the negative is always going to be there. So the more that we can will ourselves towards not feeling defeated, the more that the dream stays alive.
And this marvellous thing your father said was around how, look, there's enough challenges, don't make yourself your internal challenge, don't be your own worst enemy. That doesn't make sense, it's not going to help you.
Yeah.
Yeah. You sit here as a man so informed about the film world. There are so many amazing things that you've experienced and seen. If you were to push people to force them to watch 5 films, what would they be?
What a question.
Yeah.
I really love Wim Wenders' Wings of Desire. And it's a film about angels living amongst us who can hear our internal thoughts. And one of them falls in love with a woman who's in the realm of the real and is a fallen angel. And angels live for as long as they're, it's just a beautiful poetic film. Terrence Malick's Tree of Life is an exceptional movie. I had the chance to work on the film as a PA. If you haven't seen Terrence Malick's films, they're just transcendental meditations that are life-affirming, spirit-affirming. My father made his first film, Badlands, just amazing film as well, but Tree of Life is great. I think a film like The Sweet Smell of Success is a great New York story. Also an inspiration, I'll go to Wall Street. There's a couple scenes that Oliver Stone pulled directly from The Sweet Smell of Success. Wall Street is an incredible movie. I'm in the movie, in my mother's pregnant belly, but you don't see me on screen. Yeah, I think there was a film that really impacted me. It's a late silent era film called The Man with a Movie Camera. By Ziga Vert.
Which you watched at university, is that
Yeah,
right?
I watched it in my fall semester right upon entering in a silent film class. I'd eschewed the idea that I would go into film. My parents met on a movie. My mom was a brilliant actress, foregoed her career to be an amazing mother. And she both encouraged me to dream big, but to go after whatever it was that I desired. And for the most part, the thought was that wouldn't be film, just to not go backwards, but to find something of my own. But then I saw this film, The Man with a Movie Camera, and it's just an opus of what film can do in trying to make apparent, like, civilized existence or the way that we are all connected, and using the motion picture as an art form of connectivity. And I was like, oh, if we could make movies like that to help us appreciate the miracle of being alive.
A lot to reflect on there. Wow. Quite the storyteller. Quite the storyteller.
You inspire me, Arthur.
We're going to move to quickfire questions. Favorite scene in any film?
Singing in the rain. When he's singing in the rain.
character
Gene
from
Kelly's dance in that is just so effortless, and joyful.
a character from a film you could meet. Who would it be?
I'd like to meet Alex DeLarge from Clockwork Orange. Box him on the ears for being such a naughty boy.
One thing you could add to your bucket list today, what would that be?
I'm split between someday having a child and someday winning some marvelous award. Very different, one selfless, one purely egoic.
One thing that's in for you right now, one thing that's out for you.
One thing that's in for me is that I'm a married man, and the idea of what that holds in my life. And one thing that's out for me is being unkind. I have very little patience for people who can't find it in themselves to understand that there's someone else going through something on the other side of the phone or in any circumstance.
One thing you would like to bring more gratitude to yourself for that you give or do?
I'd like to be kind to myself on how hard I do work, because I think there's always work that isn't complete. And so I find if there's one negative loop, it's, what isn't being done. And, again, it's about recognizing that you don't force what your will is upon reality. In my mind, there's just so many uncontrollable things, and we only have so much time. So allowing ourselves to find our way through it, knowing that the work will still be there on the other side. So allowing time to not always be productive.
Yeah, it's funny because in a world there's such opportunity and, productivity for sure produces so many great things for people, for us, for ourselves. But do you get a bit confused by how life just does have these different components, and it's not just about being maybe the best film producer, it's also like you've got a myriad of things.
Yeah, totally. Let me ask the second to last question to you. What would you be grateful to in yourself?
Thinking about people who I know at random moments, who I haven't seen for a while, just serves me in ways and serves other people as well in ways I probably maybe don't appreciate enough.
You're
Sammy, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
If you've enjoyed this, hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. Want to support the podcast, inspire as many people as possible? You can either make a donation on the Buy Me a Coffee link in our bio and website. Want to access exclusive content? Submit ideas for future episodes? Join below as a Patreon member and we will make you feel special. Thanks so much for listening.